Chapter 60, a few pages. How was the return home? I had a good time in Africa and I didn't want to go home. I would have been happy if I could have stayed another year. But as I explained, I didn't want to be without my man for another year. My man wasn't interested in living in Africa, and I decided to compromise. Mhm. I returned exactly on the 4th of July, which is not only American Independence Day, but also my birthday. We immediately went out to meet our friends in the park in Skokie, where we lived at the time, to watch fireworks. It was good to see my friends whom I hadn't seen in a whole year. The meeting with Joel wasn't as good as I already wrote. It took us some time to get back to our previous relationship. We even consulted with our therapist, who taught me to step into Joel's shoes, which was very helpful. Joel also went back to taking his pills. I must have heard that such a situation might happen because that's the question I asked the fetishist, the shaman, the Vedic priest I met. He was the one who asked me to donate another chicken to him, and I refused. Maybe because of my refusal, I didn't come back ready to clash with Joel after a year we didn't live together. The university was fun to go back to. They welcomed me with great appreciation, and I gave some interesting lectures about my year in Benin. One lecture was about Benin and beyond. A second lecture was about Benin's women. The third lecture was on Benin and slavery. The fourth lecture was on Benin and voodoo. I also lectured in my synagogue and other places. When I arrived in Israel, I also gave several lectures to friends at the Zionist House of America and at the Herzliya Rotary Group, at Bet Ariela, at the Daniel Synagogue, and recently on Zoom. Over the years, I discovered that I was forgetting many details of my life in Africa. So I decided to write this book so that my memories would come back to me and remain at least on paper. Two artists from Benin were invited by me to come and present their works in exhibitions at my university's library. The exhibitions were happily received, and many of the works were sold to my friends and colleagues. I had such a good time in West Africa that at the first opportunity I applied for another Fulbright grant, this time for veteran professors. The second time, I could not expect the Ministry of the Interior to find me a place to go. I was the one who had to search and find, and that is what I did. The Central Africa Republic, for example, heard about me and offered me a job there. But unfortunately, the United States did not have an embassy or consulate there, so I couldn't go there. What a shame. I also tried to find a job in Israel as a lecturer with a Fulbright grant, at a college in Sderot where they needed lecturers. I also thought about Kibbutz Keturah, which also had a college for Israeli and Palestinian students. Of course, I visited these two places in Israel that I liked. It would be good to help my countries. The University of Udebe in Cotonou, Benin, heard about me and offered me a job in 2011. I decided to accept this offer because in Israel, I could always work in the future, especially since 2013, we have been living in a country without winter, meaning we are here for a good number of months. And we travel to the United States for the summer months. It was good to return to Benin in 2011. I felt at home again, despite the new place. I met up with some of my old friends and also met new ones. In particular, Udebe, the president of the university where I worked, enjoyed having lunch every day with me and other colleagues. He also invited us to him and his wife's villa outside the city for the weekend, and even invited me to stay and teach at his university even after the grant ended. I didn't want to live without my own again. At the university itself, all the professors invited me to lecture in their classes, even though they knew I was only a professor of mathematics and informatics and computer science. They wanted to know about cancer, such as breast cancer and prostate cancer, about the exercises I do, about Israel, and more. It was interesting to share my knowledge and various experiences with them. Indeed, in one class, I showed them how I do gymnastics. In another class, I explained to them about different diseases. It was very interesting for them to see a woman from another country, from another world, with different experiences. The truth is that there are not many Africans who do gymnastics. I also realized that there are no oncologists there and no surgeons. Very sad. I was also invited to lecture at other colleges. I spoke specifically about ethics, which they knew nothing about. The halls were full, and journalists also came to interview me. So you could say that Africa is a lot of dream world for me. If you ever dreamed of being famous and living like some famous singer or actor, then here it is. It can happen in Africa. In many towns, I was the only or almost the only white woman, and that alone made me famous, especially if I was also sent and lectured or held an exhibition. I was admired in the classrooms. It was really fun. So you could say that I lived the life of a famous actress, and that was enough for me. I didn't need more.